Forgive him, Lord, for he knows not what he does. But this time, the head of the FIA, Mohammed bin Sulayem, has gone too far, and the drivers have rounded against him en masse, and I'm here for it. Why? Because this dude can't keep his foot out of his mouth. I love this sport, and this dude represents it in a way that is not only not fit for purpose, but is bringing it into disrepute. And I am pleased, indeed I celebrated to hear Lewis Hamilton's comments, Maximilian Verstappen's comments, and Lando Norris's too. Get out of Dodge, Mohammed bin Sulayem. And for the avoidance of doubt, to set the scene, this is the latest in a long line of indiscretions, linguistic ones that this dude has made. Misogyny, sexism, racism, proselytizing, political biases, again, which are meant to be kept out of the sport. This is what this dude does, and this apparently doesn't belong in the sport. There was once upon a time a man called Hippocrates. Look, Mohammed bin Sulayem's comments come on the back of the new FIA standards. I'm going to read them out to you. Mohammed bin Sulayem made his comment about the drivers not being grappers after he was asked about a statement he posted on his personal Instagram. Yeah, not the first dodgy thing that Mohammed bin Sulayem, head of the FIA, the regulatory body, which of course suffers from more than a small bout of regulatory capture. This is what he put on his Instagram. And again, lest we forget, Max Mosley has been on there, so too Prince Andrew, both of whom were not exactly bastions of what it means to be an upstanding human being. And therein lies the hypocrisy laced that intersects with everything that Mohammed bin Sulayem does. He's not the bastion of good and upstanding righteousness that he so claims to be. And that would, if it were the case, then these comments wouldn't be so bad, right? But because they are, it feels proselytizing, condescending. On his Instagram account over the summer break, he mentioned a change in the FIA's international sporting code regarding the definition of the word misconduct. Let me just say this. Let me say this for the avoider, because this is where it gets techie. I don't know why in 2024 we want to pretend like just because we can now hear the expletives over the radio, that this hasn't always been a thing in Formula One. Can you imagine the language that Nigel Mansell would have been coming out with? Okay, so you couldn't hear it then, but just because you didn't hear or see it, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. What are we doing here? This is chaos. Honestly, I just don't. Here's what Mohammed bin Sulayem said. Let me get it out because I'm about to go scorched earth here. As part of our ongoing fight against online abuse, recent investigations have shown that there is a direct link between negative comments from drivers and team members and increased hate directed towards officials on social media. Hang on then, Mohammed bin Sulayem, head of the FIA. What are you talking about, online abuse? Wasn't it you that said that you were going to investigate Susie Wolff and Toto Wolff for alleged conflict? Like, do you know what I mean? Conflict of interest, sharing data on a whim, by the way. Like, what are we doing here, Mohammed bin Sulayem? Wasn't it you that persecuted one Sir Lewis Hamilton for wearing jewellery? Wasn't it you who again posted on Instagram Prince Andrew and Max Mosley pictures, you with both of them, again neither one of whom are bastions of what it means to be an upstanding citizen. You as the head of the FIA, the regulatory body of one of the greatest, most expensive, lucrative sports in the world, this is who you fraternize with, and now you want to get on your high moralistic horse and tell people what they should and shouldn't be doing. This makes no sense. There was once upon a time a man called Hippocrates, but I digress. Mohammed bin Sulayem continues. At the last World Motorsport Council, members approved a change to the definitions of misconduct within the International Sporting Code of Conduct following incidences in which high-profile members of our sport have made statements towards officials that incite abuse. You know, and again, if we're calling out hypocrisy, do you remember in 2021 where there was a steward that said that he or she wanted harm to come to one Sir Lewis, Carl Davidson, Hamilton? What happened to that steward? Therefore, Mohammed bin Sulayem, if these are the rules of engagement within which we are operating, you will forgive me for going scorched earth, but I cannot take hypocrisy. I'm allergic to it. In fact, Mohammed Ben Sulayem continues. And now with technology, everything is going live and everything is going to be recorded. Yeah, well, that's your decision, chap. This is, you hold the red pen on these things. So if you want to make that decision, then you live and die by it, therefore. And indeed, you know what? I've never heard any expletives get leaked. Okay, so there's been one or two that's leaked through the censorship safety net. However, for the most part, they bleep them out as far as I remember. At the end of the day, MBS continues. We have to study that to see, do we minimise what is being said publicly? Because imagine you are sitting with your children and watching a race, and then somebody is saying all of this dirty language, which, by the way, is bleeped. And again, as a parent to a young human, I get that aspect of it, but bleep it out. No harm, no foul. This is not F1 snowflakery. And as a fan base, we aren't snowflakes either. Some people do like some colourful language, expletives. This is the highest level of sporting endeavour. And these guys are driving cars, killing machines at 200,000 million miles an hour. Of course, they're going to come over the radio with some expletives from time to time, as they risk their lives with a view to win races and championships. Therefore, MBS continues, what would your children or grandchildren say? What would you teach them if that is your sport? Don't tell me how to parent my children. Mohammed Ben Sulayem, I'm sick and tired of the condescending nature of all your language and verbiage, telling me or anybody else what to do or how to do it. You're the FIA, chap, as if you haven't got bigger fires to fight as far as your regulatory body remit, chap. You can't even police or institute the rules in a way that's consistent across all related parties. That, sir, is your remit. We have to do, and here's where it gets techie, ladies and gents. This is where it gets techie. I can't, honestly, wearing is obviously a non-issue, as Cam says. There's very few seconds. It's a nonsense, James. Listen and check this out. And here's where it gets super techie. Forgive me for I am about to go full scorched earth, just as Max Verstappen did, just as Lewis Hamilton did, and just as Lando No Wins did. Here's what he says. After all, in that context, and I quote, we're not rappers, you know. They say the F word how many times per minute? We're not on that. This is Mohammed Ben Sulayem, for the avoidance of doubt speaking, head of the regulatory body of the billion-dollar sport we call the Wonder Fs. He continues, and this is verbatim, that's them, we are us. I've never heard a dude, a head of a regulatory body in any field. Again, his remit is to level the competitive landscape and ensure that all related parties are safe and sound, safeguarding indeed. And to do that, this needs to be goal congruence, not them and us. How many of those drivers up and down the grid do you think have rap songs on their Spotify playlist? All of them, for Pete's sake. Rap is like a part of mainstream culture. So how are you doing them and us? This makes no sense, Mohammed Ben Sulayem. This sort of language in its tone is insensitive. And again, this isn't your remit, chap. Oh, the humanity. Listen, I pine for the days of one Jean Todt, the dude that used to take his job seriously, not attention seek. He just wanted to be a silent partner in the background. You barely see him at a Grand Prix. Do you know what I mean? He'd only come out and talk to you if there was something polemic, a controversial incident that required that his job as the head of the FIA required him to speak to. Oh no, not Mohammed Ben Sulayem. You know what I mean? He's front and centre every podium, isn't it? We're not rappers. How very dare you? We're not rappers. What are you talking about? What, it's only rappers? That's your only point of reference as far as people who use expletives on a regular. You know, there are rappers still to this day who have never uttered a swear word, Mohammed Ben Sulayem. So you stop it, sir. Stop tarring everyone with the same brush. All rappers are not monolithic. What is he doing? Doing his best for... Listen, I can't. I'm about to go scorched earth. And that's the bad news. And here comes the good news. Because Maximilian Verstappen wasn't having that. You remember Maximilian Verstappen on the radio the other day when he heard that they didn't want to challenge a decision that he disagreed with. Maximilian Verstappen said, send the stewards my regards. Gangster settings, and I love that. Here's what Maximilian Verstappen had to say about this swearing nonsense. I guess the world is changing a bit said Maximilian Verstappen. But I guess it already starts with not broadcasting it. There you go. Just make the decisions. If you don't want to broadcast swearing and the drivers are swearing, then don't broadcast radio messages. Life is much harder than this. This is a very simple, low-level decision, FIA. Make it make sense. Or not giving the option for people to hear it in general. That would help a lot more than just putting bans on the driver. How are you going to ban the drivers from swearing? It just feels like, to a certain extent, it just feels like like a racket, doesn't it? A money-making scheme. Well, let's put these £10,000 on any driver that swear, and let's see where we get to come the end of the year. Again, cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bills. Your green is the only colour that matters as far as the sporting endeavour that is Formula One. The only colour that has ever mattered. But I digress. Maximilian Verstappen continues because, for example, I couldn't even say the F word, and that's not even that bad. Maximilian Verstappen says the car was not working. The car is effed, and he didn't say effed, did he? Let's get in there, Max Verstappen. What do you read? Put some respect on his name and his freedom of speech. And it's excuse me for the language, but come on, Max says. Like, what are we? 5 years old, 6 years old. Even if a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old is watching, they'll eventually swear anyway. Let's go, Max Verstappen. Put some respect on his name. Even if their parents will not allow it, when they grow up, they'll walk around with their friends and they will be swearing. This is not changing anything. And that's one point of view from Maximilian Verstappen. As a parent, I'm not sure if I lean into it, but I like the rebellious nature of it. 2 fingers up at Mohammed bin Sulayem and the FIA as far as the regulatory body for all of the regulatory capture that embodies them. Get out of your own way, FIA Mohammed bin Sulayem. How about you go and look at Lando Norris's full start earlier on this season? So too Checo Perez. What, your transponders weren't working? So you can't eye test that and see that they went before the green light. No, you lot are too busy with Jewelry Gate, telling Lewis Hamilton what he needs to do from what he can't do, telling these drivers that they can't swear. Mohammed bin Sulayem so keen to be on the podium, kicking it with the drivers of the day, the ones that have... You know what? Let me tell you this before I read out Lewis and Lando's reaction. Last Grand Prix felt like a moment for me. I love myself some F1. When you combine F1 and sporting excellence, like we saw with Oscar Jack Piastri this weekend past at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, I can't help but get goosebumps. I loved it. As soon as that race finished, I was like, this is proper. It feels like a goosebump moment, a coming out party. This is Oscar Piastri's day. It was a feel good for all concerned. F1 community, drivers, teams alike, particularly McLaren. Of course, Oscar Jack Piastri. Mark Webber was on it too, because of course, Oscar Jack Piastri is a function of his coaching and mentoring. And I love that massively. Big fan. And then all of a sudden, I have this massive come down moment because I can see Mohammed bin Sulayem putting himself front and centre. Again, attention seeking, camera time, before even Oscar and the other podium sitters in George Russell, first of his name, and Charles Leclerc. What are we doing here? What is this dude doing? Is he a music producer? The joke is he wants to be careful talking about rappers because he reminds me of certain music producers that wanted to be up all in the videos, taking the shine, no pun intended. Here's what Lando Norris had to say. War Lando Norris, let's go. He said, I find it cool. Again, let me read out the entire thing for context. It's so bad. MBS cares about what Liberty Media tells him. He's a corporate man, not an F1 president. Well said, Daniel, says here. You're a legend. Cursing is part of the sport, says here. Says, like, what are we doing here? This is nonsense. I cannot cope. Here's what Lando Norris had to say. That the rawness of the drivers and their thoughts and feeling add something to the sport. I concur. If team radio swearing were to be clamped down upon, following comments on the matter by FIA president, again, he's desperate to do it, isn't he? Says, hey, you're a legend. Thank you so much. Raffle, let's go. This is what Lando Norris had to say. I find it cool and exciting when you listen to these kinds of things. Why though, Lando? Because it takes the viewer closer to the action, right? You hear and feel what the driver's feeling in real time. You can't have that language sanitized because then the rawness of the emotion in itself doesn't translate. What are we doing? I cannot believe that we're here having this conversation yet again at the behest of the god tier proselytizer that is one Mohammed Ben Sulayem, head of the FIA. Mind your own business, chap. And the nose continues. It's not just nice, gentle, soft language that people are using. This is F1. So I'm sure there's plenty of other sports and things you can go and watch if that's what you want to hear. Let's go, London Norris. Fighting talk. Our heart rates are so high. We are driving cars at 200 miles an hour. We're just putting our passion and our love into it. Of course, there's going to be some bad words on the other side of it, but it's just because we're trying. We're wanting to give our best, and we feel hard done by when things don't go right. Feel passion, emotion. Surely this is what F1's supposed to be embodying. If that comes with, as a byproduct, a cheeky expletive from time to time, then so be it. I don't want snowflake F1. Nobody does. What are we doing, Jomo? This is nonsense. Lando Norris continues, and if it's because of excitement and stuff, that's because we're happy for what goes into it, and I want to be closer to that as an F1 view. This is my personal opinion here. I don't want to be detached from what's going in the cockpit. Bring us closer to it then. And the way that you don't do that is by sanitizing and censoring the drivers in real time who are risking their lives, for Pete's sake. And here's what Lewis had to say. Good first. Mr. PR Lewis Hamilton first. He says, when I was 22, I did not think of it as much, and it was more about your emotions, just firing up and saying whatever comes to mind and forgetting however many people are listening and watching, and kids are listening, and all of those type of things, Lewis Hamilton explains. He continues, so I agree in that sense. You know, when you listen to some of the drivers and they have not just got it yet, they're not behaving as champions. You remember Lewis said that the other day. What is it to behave like a champion? So at some stage, they probably will get it, says Lewis Hamilton. I'm sure if you put penalties for people, people will stop it. And maybe that's, I don't know whether that's needed, but I definitely think there is too much swearing. That's Lewis Hamilton's opinion, and fair play. Listen, some people like some expletives, some people like some colourful language, some people hate it. Talk to Mama Cameron, not a fan. Hence why you see me come here. You rarely see me say an F or an S. I'd rather spell it out because my mum isn't a big fan. However, that doesn't mean that I can then proselytise you or anybody else. Drivers driving around at 200 miles an hour, I'm going to tell them that they can't use colourful language from time to time, that I'm going to penalise them. If this is a spectator sport and you're trying to bring F1 fans into the cockpit and the paddock, this, ladies and gentlemen, is not the answer. Therefore, there has to be a different panacea that they can leverage. Lewis Hamilton continues, and here's where it gets techie. However, continues Sir Lewis Carl Davidson Hamilton, 7-time champion, thou shalt put some respect on his name. I don't like how Mohammed Ben Sulayem expresses it. Let me set the table for, you know what, I've skipped a bit, haven't I? Lewis Hamilton and Mohammed Ben Sulayem aren't cozy bedfellows. Why? Because remember, only a couple of months ago, several moons, Lewis Hamilton was asked on the back of another Mohammed Ben Sulayem indiscretion, whether he still has confidence in the head of the FIA after that one. And again, there's been a gazillion. As an asset value, F1 is valued too high. That's Mohammed Ben Sulayem that said that. Susie Wolf, we're going to investigate. That's him that said that. And every time he says these things now, F1, proper F1 stakeholders, whether it's the drivers and teams, are coming out against him now. They did so with the Susie Wolf thing. We did not say anything about conflict of interest. Remember, all of the F1 teams put out that statement, carbon copies of each other. Again, opposing substantively even, the FIA head. Nobody likes that chat. They would have got rid of him if they didn't want to create such a scene. But again, it makes sense from a diplomatic and tactful perspective to allow him to see out his tenure December 2025. And I, for one, cannot wait. Here's where Lewis Hamilton gets techie and goes scorched earth on Mohammed bin Sulayem for all of this rapper nonsense, as if rappers are somehow a monolith and you can tar them all with the same brush and talk about expletives. Here's what Lewis said. I don't like it, however, how Mohammed bin Sulayem has expressed it, saying that rappers is very stereotypical if you think about it, because most rappers are black persons of color, and that really kind of points it towards when it says we are not like them. They're not like us. Oh, the humanity. Do you see the irony here? So I think those are the wrong choice of words. There is a racial element there, and I don't want to get politicky. I hate it. I want to come in here and talk about the one that F's each and every single time, the sport that I love. But what Lewis has said, how can you argue in good faith that what Lewis has said there isn't on the money? As the head of the FIA, because context is always key, why does Mohammed bin Sulayem need to talk in those terms? Surely his remit is front and centre as far as his objectives, both medium and long term. Surely it should be goal congruence, winning hearts and minds as far as all of your key stakeholders. If you have Sir Lewis, Lando and Maximilian Verstappen, 3 soon to be 4-time champion, coming out and speaking so explicitly, roundly against something that you said, and you are the head of the FIA, the body that's responsible for regulating the sport and maintaining an even competitive landscape. If those 3 as your key stakeholders are opposing you, disagreeing so vehemently in real time, then as far as Mohammed bin Sulayem's concerned and the FIA, the regulatory body for all of their regulatory capture, Houston, we have ourselves a problem. I mean, what are we doing here?